Hi guys, it's Ashley Nicole with Passion, Purpose, and Paychecks. If you missed our last episode, make sure you subscribe so that you always get notifications when we're on. Now today, we have with us Brittany Applegate of Brand Chicago. You all will not want to miss this story and to hear her journey to entrepreneurship. Brittany, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So Brittany, Brand Chicago, what is it?
So Brand Chicago is an L3C organization. We are a community of Chicago's most ambitious Black entrepreneurs, young professionals, creatives, and freelancers. And so what Brand Chicago does is basically equip these individuals with all the tools and resources that they need to build their personal and professional brands. And the way that we do this is through small, intimate workshops, through various events. We have an annual conference that takes place.
Amazing.
And then most importantly, we want to give people access to each other to pretty much propel that creative collaboration piece that I think is so important today.
That is phenomenal. Now, you mentioned L3C. For all of our viewers that aren't tuned into what that means, do you mind explaining that?
Yeah, so I will explain this to the best of my ability because I am not an attorney, but an L3C, it's a hybrid between an LLC and a nonprofit organization. And so it's typically for organizations who have some type of social responsibility. And so there is a cause that is helping other people do something for the betterment of themselves or for their community. And so I chose to do an L3C instead of a nonprofit organization or an LLC because Brand Chicago is ultimately exactly what it says, a hybrid of both of those entities.
And so we have a lot of people watching that want to start their own business and that are figuring out, how do I navigate the murky waters of incorporation, which, as we both know, can be very challenging to differentiate. In fact, when I started the Kirkwood Foundation, a nonprofit that my husband and I run together, I hired attorneys. I'm a lawyer, but I hired attorneys that specialize in that because I'm a trial lawyer, a litigator, and I don't do corporate transactions. So how were you able to navigate that? Who did you hire?
So initially, the reason why the name is Brand Chicago is because at first the name was Brand Camp. And so it was called Brand Camp because I was having this conference that took place in April 2017. And as soon as I announced the conference and people started buying tickets, I received a cease and desist email from someone who owned the trademark Brand Camp. Now, to me, I'm thinking it's just the name of an event. I Googled Brand Camp. Brand Camp, the domain name was available to purchase. And so I'm confused. And I'm like, if so many people are using Brand Camp, why are you coming after me? And then why are you coming after me after I just announced this conference is taking place? So what I learned from that is that, Brittany, you didn't do your due diligence to make sure that this name was actually legally available. And so coming out of that, I realized that just because a domain name is not taken doesn't mean that legally someone does not own that name. And so coming out of that, I have multiple friends who work in intellectual property as attorneys. And so I was able to reach out to them and get some advice. And that's when they told me, girl, you need to do it right. You need to hire an attorney and you need to work with someone who is a professional who can actually help you trademark Brand Chicago and then actually help you create an L3C from Brand Chicago. And so thus far, the first part that has been created is the L3C because it is an expensive process. However, I'm very blessed to be able to have individuals help me with that, and then that incident take place to propel me to help others learn from my mistakes so that they don't do the same.
Yes, no, definitely. That's a great point. So how did you start Brand Chicago?
So Brand Chicago actually started in 2016 as a summer email biweekly newsletter. And so in this newsletter, every other week, I was sending out tips for individuals to brand themselves. I was highlighting events that took place in Chicago that they can attend for professional development. I was sharing podcasts that I was listening to that I felt like they could also listen to and be inspired like myself. It was pretty much inviting those individuals into my learning experience that I have and then sharing it with them. And so I want to say nearly 200 people subscribed to it, which always shocks me because I'm like, how do y'all know about me? But nearly 200 people subscribed to it. It was amazing. And so when the summer ended, throughout the fall, I kept getting emails, hey, can you help me with this? Can you teach me this? And I was thinking like, wow, if there's 200 plus people subscribed to this email list, I should get them all together. And so God literally spoke to me and was just like, you should get them all together. And so in December, for the holiday break, I had time to just sit down. First, I created the website, I created the structure, I created an agenda all myself.
Wow. And your website is gorgeous. Tell us what your website is.
So my website is www.brandchicago.org, and I created it using Squarespace myself, which I think is a very easy platform to build your own website for beginners.
Yes.
Anything more complex, hire someone.
Yes, I agree.
But in December, I'm very impulsive. So if something comes up, I have to do it right then and there, or else it may not get done.
Yes, I know exactly how you feel. When I thought of that, the blog post, I actually did a Facebook post. I don't know if you saw. So I did a Facebook post that was about basically working while Black, and it was longer than 5 sentences. So Danielle Mitchell of Average Black Girl,
I love her,
actually posted underneath, it's a blog post.
I saw that.
And she was like, if anyone makes a Facebook post longer than 5 sentences, it's a blog post. Put it on a blog, start monetizing, get your AdSense up. And when I originally applied for AdSense, I got declined because my website for the show is it's show-based, so it's not a lot of content. And it was declined because they were like, you need more content on your website to put up AdSense so we can know what we're going to put the ads to and what type of content we'll support. And it just was all in line with what Danielle said. And I think that being, again, from corporate America, I've learned that when you receive feedback, if it is something that can propel you to use it and to help yourself, take it and do it. And for me, I'm impulsive. So if I wouldn't have written it last night, it would have gone... It just wouldn't have worked.
And I love what Danielle said, and I know Danielle, I think she's amazing.
She is.
What she ultimately said is like, create this content that will last, because we create the Facebook status, and that Facebook status could probably live for a day before we create another one. But that blog post is going to last. You can repurpose it. You can re-release it next year for those who haven't seen it yet. So that was a really great tip she gave you.
Exactly. No, I really appreciate that a lot. So in terms of how you got started, you said that you were able to just kind of sit down, build your website over break, start a conference. Now, after you were all started, how did you know that this was your purpose? Like, when was that moment that you were decided about what you would do?
Oh, man. I think the moment was making a Facebook status, and I think I just said, hey, if I do a conference for Brand Chicago, would y'all come? And it received so many likes, so much engagement, so many comments like, I'm there, I'm there, I'm there. And sometimes people say that they will be there just to be a part of the hype and to kind of gas you up, which I appreciate. But I felt, I appreciate it.
Gas me.
Right, gas
I always think of that Chance
Thank
thing.
you, Chance.
He was
right.
like, gas me. It was such an honest reaction. Shout out to Chance the rapper. Can't wait to see you on the couch.
It was so genuine. I felt like the responses that I received were genuine. And so I knew that I had something when I finally created the social media at Brand Chicago, and then I put out the first flyer for it. And it received so many likes. People were so excited. And I was just like, all right, let's do the real test. Put these tickets on sale and see if you buy the tickets.
So you sold tickets. How did you set your ticket price? I think that it's very difficult, especially starting out, to set ticket prices. I have a friend who's doing a conference, and it's challenging figuring out what to charge, how to charge.
Well, initially, I studied other people's conferences to see what they were charging, but then I get scared. I'm like, people aren't going to buy these tickets if I put them on sale for $50.
Right.
But you have to first think about the budget of the conference. And so you think about the conference is going to cost this much, and then if I divide it by X number of people that this room will hold.
And that's a reasonable figure. So you probably divide it by, maybe let's say 50% of the people come, my expenses will be covered.
Exactly. And so now that ticket price is initially sometimes pretty high. So you're like, okay, let's see what we can do. So what I did was I had an early bird price that I shared with a couple friends. And it was one friend of mine, his name is Simeon. He's a barber here in Chicago, very successful. And he was just like, what are you doing? Like, why is it so cheap? Like, you're putting it out there and you need people to see the value in it. Sometimes the value is reflected in the price. Like, you have all these speakers, you're providing lunch, it's free parking.
Food.
And he's like, man, up the price. Like, it is okay. People will come.
And what was the price when he gave you that advice, what was the price of the conference?
I think it was like $15.
$15
for like early bird.
Okay.
It was like $15 for early bird. And he was just like, man, like you have to give people an incentive to really come. Because I think oftentimes we do put on a lot of free events and people do have the option to not show up because what am I losing by not showing up? And so
no investment.
I went back. I had a conversation with my brother. His name is Michael. Sometimes he's like my business mentor. And he was just like, yeah, if you build it, they will come. Up the price. So I was just like, all right, here we go. I upped the price. I think the early bird was $25.
Okay.
And I only sold like 15 of those, but those sold out the first week that I announced it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, cool. Sold out. Let's up the price again. So the general admission price was, I want to say $45.
Okay.
And to me, that was high. I was just like, this brand Chicago is new. These people don't really know me. Let's see what happens. $45. Tickets sold like hotcakes.
And how many did you have available?
I had 100 tickets available.
And they all sold?
They all sold.
Wow.
And the VIP tickets, though, however, I was selling VIP tickets that included headshots, lunch, a swag bag, T-shirts, and those were $75. And all of those sold. Those sold out actually quicker than the general admission tickets. And then so I'm like, cool, 100 people have bought these tickets. And so 25 more just on the side because I'm also very you send me a Facebook message, you're like, please, I really want to come. I missed the deadline, blah, blah, blah. I'm one of those who are like, okay, girl, I'll open it back up for you, but don't tell anybody else.
Right.
And so 125 people actually registered to come and 125 plus people showed up, including media and things like that.
And how did you get, so this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because it's a new organization. You sell out your first conference, ticket prices ranging from $25 to $75.
Yes.
And then you were able to get press there. How were you able to do this? And at this point, well, let me back up. At the point that you sold out of the conference, were you working alone or had you formed a committee of people or any employees that could help you or even contractors?
I worked alone.
Wow.
Because it's the analogy of when you have a baby, no one's going to take care of your baby the way that you do.
And so, it's new.
Exactly.
It's a new baby.
For me, it was my first child.
Yeah.
I only wanted my influence to pretty much drive it. Of course, with outside mentors, you talk to people, but it was pretty much my responsibility to make sure that it was successful and a test to myself to see what I was actually made of. Am I who I say I am? Am I really a boss? Because if I am, I have to boss up.
Yeah.
And so I did that by myself because to me, it's just this is my first child, this is my baby. When you have your second child, you already know how to raise a child. So you're a little bit more free to give your child up to someone else and say, this is how my child eats, this is the time, this is bedtime and things of that sort. And so now for Brand Chicago, the second conference, I am putting together a committee because I know what needs to be done. I know what mistakes were made that I can anticipate to prevent from happening. And then at the end of the day, you need help. And so I know that for Brand Chicago to be sustainable and continue to grow, it will not grow with just me.
This is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of career coaching. And so I feel like I meet a lot of people who are just stuck. We actually had a guest that wrote into the show and said, I need to figure out how to get unstuck. I start things, but I don't really finish them. Yeah. And so it's phenomenal that you were able to have this vision, start it yourself, build your website, plan a conference, sell the conference out, and then you notice that you mentioned that press was there. Yeah. A big piece of a marketing budget really is press.
Yes.
It is extremely expensive to have a good publicist.
Yes.
How were you able to independently get press there?
So creative collaboration is a big thing, and I think Issa Rae she was in an interview, and what she said was we don't always have to network up. And you don't always have to go to the highest person. Yes. You should look at your peers and see what they are gifted at and what they're talented at as well, and you should pull them in.
Yes.
And so one of my peers, her name is Tyler. She has her own.
Tyler, listened to a podcast with her.
Yeah.
She does PR. Yep. She also works as well. I like her a lot. I listened to one of her podcasts for an entire hour while I was getting dressed. And I apologize. I will have the name of the podcast and we will link it up for you guys so you all can follow the podcast that she was on. But she's great. Okay, wonderful.
She is amazing. And I reached out to her and I was just like, hey, again, planning your first conference, some stuff is last minute. And so I think I reached out to her for PR help maybe a month and a half in advance. Wow. And I was just like, I need some help. I trust you. Like I want some bloggers to be there, if possible, some news outlets. I kind of want some articles to be written. Let me know your price. I'll pay you, which I think it is important to pay your friends and to support their businesses.
I agree.
Full price. Let them offer you a discount.
I agree. If they feel that's what necessary.
Exactly. And so reached out to her, and she went to work. And all I know is
she's really good. Okay, because I actually need a publicist, so I'm going to go.
She is good.
I'm like doing a little research for myself.
She's great. Like
okay, great.
She wrote the press release. She sent it out. She was very organized. She let me know like these are the people that were coming. Some of the people I didn't even know. And the day of the conference, I look around and I'm on stage and I just see cameras, flashing lights. And I'm like, Tyler, what did you do? And she brought the people out and she gave them deadlines to actually put the content out so that it wasn't like the Brand Chicago conference recap comes out in October and it took place in April. And so from there, I was able to connect with other networks of individuals who had followings and were now connected to Brand Chicago, who had written articles and blog posts about how impactful it was, and genuinely because they were actually there and it got to the point where they were learning stuff.
Yes, I love that.
And so for them to write about what they were learning and to put that out there, I was able to use that content on my website to now serve as this is how Brand Chicago was last year. When I go after sponsors this year, I have things to say, I have pictures to show, I have video for them to watch, all because I worked with someone next to me who was just really good at what they do to help me take my business to the next level. And in return, Tyler Marie is amazing.
Tyler Marie, do you know her
Instagram
Instagram handle? We will link that too.
Just if you look up Tyler Marie, Tyler Marie, I think she'll show up.
Yep. Excellent. Oh my goodness, that's phenomenal. Okay, so the other thing, so you have a conference that sells out, you have press, all great. You also noted sponsorship, another huge hurdle for new businesses and new ventures. How were you able to obtain corporate sponsorships? And did you receive that? Did you receive corporate sponsorships for your first conference? How were you able to achieve that?
So the main corporate sponsorship that came through was actually with an advertising agency called We Are Unlimited. And they are McDonald's advertising agency. So they do all of McDonald's commercials, radio advertisement, print ads, etc. And what happened is I'm connected to a woman. Her name is Brittany Applegate, and she is the head of diversity and inclusion there. And so social media is powerful. She and I were connected on social media. I think we kind of have been in the same room together a couple times, but she saw what was happening and felt that Brand Chicago was a great opportunity for her agency to connect with young professionals and actually recruit. And so she came to me and said, how can we get involved? And I was just like, I've been waiting on you. Thank you. And connected her, and they pretty much sponsored like a pretty nice chunk of Brand Chicago. And from there, they came, they recruited, they connected with the young professionals there, because one thing I do want to say about Brand Chicago, it's not an organization that is only for entrepreneurs.
Right.
It's also for young professionals. And so I also want to make sure that I'm connecting young professionals who don't want to leave their jobs, who don't want to just say, I'm a full-time entrepreneur, but enjoy working and want to be the representation that's still needed in corporate America. I want to make sure I'm equipping them.
It is a needed representation.
Absolutely. Because if we all leave,
then it's just completely washed.
What's going to happen? So
no, it's definitely a needed representation. And a part of the responsibility that I feel at times is, okay, but if you were to just leave now, who fills the gap for that? Now, I feel like you have to move in your time.
Exactly.
I don't think that you should necessarily feel confined by, oh my gosh, I'm the only one, I need to stay forever. But move in your time. I think that when it's time to leave fully, you will know and you will leave and you will prepare.
Yes.
Now,
you will prepare.
We're going to talk about preparation, because I saw that you did an event a while back on, before you don't leave your job, before hearing these words, or something to that.
Preparing to leave corporate America.
Preparing to leave. And I really, really like that. But I want to go back to sponsorships for a moment. It sounds like the value that your conference provided, it attracted sponsors. And that's how you were able to get your sponsorship. But when she came to you and said, what can we do? How were you able to give her a figure that would answer that question? Because that's another really tough thing for people is, okay, someone's saying they want to give me money, but ooh, I don't know how much.
Yes.
Like, how do you make the sponsorship levels?
I think initially, so I had other sponsorships because I needed someone to help cover the food. And so Illuminati's Pizza was there and to be catered for 125 plus people and the volunteers. And so technically, you know, maybe 170 people or something like that. So you're like, man, 45 pizzas adds up to a lot. And so if I can just find one sponsorship or just a dollar amount to take care of that, awesome. And that's pretty much what Illuminati's took care of. Not Illuminati's. We Are Unlimited took care of lunch for everyone.
Perfect.
I had breakfast and reached out to an up-and-coming pastry maker and baker, and I wish I could remember her company's name. Right. Scratch My Batch Cupcakes. Okay, so I reached out to Scratch My Batch. It's a bakery. She's up and coming. Her name is Dominique. She took care of breakfast for all the VIP attendees. My brother, he owns a real estate company, Gotta Love Family. He donated, and he actually took care of like the graphic design and how much those expenses would cost. And so I work with people, again, side by side, my peers who I felt were up and coming and also could use that exposure to be there in the room. And they helped me. They came through when I needed them to make sure that the conference experience was exactly what I needed it to be.
I love that. That is great. So you have Brand Chicago. You all throw a lot of free events for the community, workshops, things that can help people with marketing. But you also have your own consulting business where you help individuals and smaller corporations, as well as I'm assuming you would take larger clients as well, with their branding and marketing strategy. How were you able to convert your free platform to make income for your consulting business?
So Brand Chicago and my consulting business, they're very different from each other. My consulting business came first. And so that was pretty much how I built my credibility as a branding and marketing professional. And so Brand Chicago, just by having that exposure, people always want to know who's the person behind the brand, like who's running this show. And when they see that you are the person running the show, from there, they reach out to you for their own needs. And so I've been able to speak at Borden College about workforce development courses over an entire semester. I recently just partnered with the Chicago Community Trust to teach social media marketing classes. I worked with the Gary Comer Center over the summer to teach personal branding classes to their teenagers as a part of their workforce program that they had there. And so all because I put myself out there, all because I built something and people paid attention to it and it has value to it. I've been able to also connect and partner with other people to speak. And so now speaking has become another source of income, teaching workshops and things of that sort. And then I also try to make sure that Brand Chicago stays Brand Chicago. So if I'm speaking somewhere that's not Brand Chicago related, you might not see that being promoted on Brand Chicago at all. However, what Brand Chicago has done has also connected individuals with these experts in their fields who come and speak to our community, and has put them on a platform where they can continue to grow their speaking and their teaching and things of that sort. So again, it's all about creative collaboration. Like all together, we all work like a well-oiled machine. We all want to see each other win. And that means that you have to come speak through Brand Chicago because you're amazing and people really need to know, like, you teach a really good course on email marketing, then come on, girl, you're about to come teach this through Brand Chicago.
So you talked a little bit about your career before launching Brand Chicago as an advertiser, and you talked about some of the difficulties you faced in that career. At what point did you decide, I'm going to leave traditional corporate America? Tell me about that experience.
Man, honestly, so this is what happened. I left an agency to go to another agency because they offered me more money. So to me, I'm like, this is awesome, more money. And so I was managing events for one of the leading automotive companies. And when I got there, I thought that I'd be managing events across the Midwest, say in Chicago, Minneapolis, Cleveland, whatever. No, I was managing farm shows in Fargo, North Dakota, and in the most rural country areas of the Midwest. And so as a Black girl traveling by myself, going to these places, I felt like I took a step backwards. And I was just like, man, I don't think I should have left. I think I should have waited a little bit more. And now maybe I should have asked more questions in the interview to really understand what I was getting myself into.
How did they, because rural Illinois and large metropolitan cities, event management seems like two different things. How were you able to, or why did you, how, explain to me what they pitched to you.
Yes.
So we could understand how
yes.
you were so surprised.
So experiential marketing is a very enticing discipline within marketing and advertising to go into because it's event planning. Yeah. And so you're thinking to yourself, cool, I'm doing event planning for an automotive company. I'll be showing up to, maybe different NBA games or different professional sports events and like helping for their halftime sponsorships because that is what they do, just not in the office I was in. That's what I found out. So like literally I'm in the interview and I'm telling them like, I love that you guys do this and do that. And like, I'm excited.
And they were just not even correcting you at all.
Yeah, like that's exactly what we need on the team. So I'm walking out the interview like, the job, I know it, and lo and behold, I got the job. And the first week I was there, that Sunday, I was on a flight to Fargo, North Dakota.
I've never even heard of Fargo, North Dakota.
Y'all.
But if we have any viewers from Fargo, North Dakota, comment your favorite places below.
Yes, I was there, and I was helping to manage farm shows. And farm shows are like auto shows for farm equipment. So I'm around all these farmers and they're looking at me like, what are you doing here? And I'm looking at them too like, I don't know. I got pulled over once for speeding in North Dakota and the sheriff was just like, what are you doing out here? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't even want to be out here. And we both kind of laughed. I was lucky that, in the climate that we have today, it was a very pleasant pullover experience.
Okay, good.
But while I was there, I would go back to my hotel room and I would open up my laptop and I'd be like, this isn't it. Like, I know God doesn't want me here. So I got to figure out the lesson in this because I know for sure that literally the next month I knew for sure I made a mistake and I was not supposed to be there. But I needed to figure out what was I supposed to learn? And I think one thing that I really took away from that job working in experiential marketing and managing events for this automotive brand is I learned how to truly manage events. And so there was a process that was taking place. Hated the process, but now it is part of the process that I use to plan events for Brand Chicago.
Right.
And so I knew that God had me there because I didn't have too much event planning experience before that. Right. But now it's like, it's second nature to know the logistics of planning an event, how to go after those sponsorships, how to manage brand ambassadors and things of that sort, and how to essentially position a brand amongst its consumers right where it needs to be in order to be successful, in order to build that brand awareness, and then ultimately create that visibility the right way, in an experiential way. And so every time someone engages with Brand Chicago, what they will notice is it will be an experience. You will not just show up to sit down, and I needed to go through that.
Well, I can't wait to show up.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome.
Yeah. I needed to go through that because I learned a lot in those hotel rooms in Fargo, North Dakota, in the country of Ohio, and this is during election time when you see just Donald Trump signs in everyone's yard, and me, young black girl, driving by myself, like, this cannot be the end for me. It was exactly what I needed to be exactly where I am today.
Wow. Okay, that's perfect. So you left that advertising agency, and now you actually are unique also in that you work part-time or full-time at another. Okay, so you work full-time for another company, but you have some like interest in the company, some investment in the company as well. And so tell us about that.
Yeah, so I also work as a senior account manager for a video production company here in Chicago called Digital Cafe.
Okay, is that why your videos look so phenomenal?
Yep.
They are outstanding.
They are.
The videography is great.
Yes.
It gets you in action. I love that.
Yes, I love it. And shout out to Eric and Donnie. Those are my two team members. And so the way that pretty much came about, Eric, who is the founder and creative director of Digital Cafe, and we've known each other for the past 5-6 years. And he was actually the individual that I connected to create my personal brand video to submit to the organization, the internship program to get me in the industry, he was the one who created that for me. And all throughout my entire time in advertising, he was always very supportive. When I needed a video for my website, he did it, and he would help me out for free because he believed in me and what I had to offer. And he'd always tell me, like, man, you're going to be great someday. Like, I'm excited to like work with you one day in whatever capacity that you're in. And so now, while I'm going through what I'm going through with the job that has me out in North Dakota, he and we remain in contact with each other. And one day he's like, man, I'm getting so much new business. I need someone to help me manage my clients. Do you know a junior person who can help me? And jokingly, I'm like, I will help you. Like, get me out of here. He's like, man, no, I can't afford you. Like, no. And so time goes on. Approaching April, which is when Brand Chicago happened, he and I had another check-in. I'm like, you know what? I'm about to leave this place anyway. I've saved up enough money to sustain for the next 6 months because initially I planned on buying a home, gave that dream up because I wanted to work for myself. And I said, I'd work with you part-time just to have some consistent income coming in. And so he's like, awesome. Joined the team. The first week I was there, we literally won a documentary with Northwestern University, which basically allowed him...
Shout out to the Wildcats. Yes. I love Northwestern. They are amazing. I went to Northwestern Law School. I love that school.
Yes.
And tell us about the documentary, because I heard you speak about this before. There's a civil rights element to it.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I love it. And so the documentary is called The Takeover, and it's about a takeover that the Black students at Northwestern did of the finance office there, which is called the Bursar office. And what happened there in 1968 was Northwestern was just now finally recruiting African American students, but they weren't treating them equally. The story we hear all the time, that pretty much was the story. Right. And so the month before Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, just the racial climate in America was just pretty tight. And so these students got together and they organized a plan and said, we're going to create this list of demands so that our Black experience here at Northwestern can improve and for generations to come. And this is how we're going to get their attention. We're going to take over the finance office. We're going to sit here, peacefully protest, and we are going to get our demands. We're going to get them. And so a group came together. That's exactly what they did. I want to say like literally maybe 100 students.
They had 100 Black students in the 60s?
Yes, in 1968, because they did a very hard...
That's interesting because...
They did very hard recruiting like the years before.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's really interesting because, you know, when you look at the numbers of Black students on campuses even now, sometimes there are campuses across the country that do not have 100 Black students.
Exactly, yeah. I think, it was about 100. And so they all came together, peacefully protested, put out their demands. It was so well organized, but it was so powerful because I think that oftentimes we don't think about the racism that takes place on predominantly white institutions.
Oh, I do, because I went to a predominantly white
institution. And so did I, you know? Yeah. And I think like there's a story that should be told about what we go through on those campuses.
I agree.
And that story is now about to be told through what happened at Northwestern in 1968. But then it didn't end in 1968. The students at Northwestern just had to protest in 2015 to keep the Black House because they wanted to integrate it and make it like the multicultural.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot that African American students at
and you need a Black House. For people watching, a lot of predominantly white campuses have things called Black Houses. When I attended the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, we had a Black House. It was literally where the director of African American Affairs, I think, would sit, and we would go in there, and it was just a safe haven from the mess that you experience as a person of color at a PWI being predominantly white institution. And so having a space for yourself where you could always find someone else Black who's in the school there. You could just go there and say, hey girl, how's it going? Or hey, I need resources for studying, or hey, I need study help, or hey, I just want to talk to you. We had a director who I would just go in and talk to her. I mean, just like, hello, today I'm Black and this is what I'm feeling. Like it was just it's necessary. You need safe havens. And that's what I think companies should understand. I wish we had a Black House at my firm. I wish we had a Black House at every company that I've worked at. Just somewhere where you can always go and find someone else who looked like you, who can understand your experience. or a counselor, whichever you can figure out first. But we really need something. Yeah, there needs to be safe spaces for people of color, and not just African Americans, for immigrants. I have a friend who works with me who is she's phenomenal, but she's an international. She came here as an international student and has remained as an attorney from another country, and so she doesn't always find people that she can relate to. And so I think that people need safe spaces.
They do,
and they don't have to be exclusive. It could be a multicultural house at first if that's what you have, but you should not take what is already defined and set aside as an African American house.
Exactly. So we're excited for that story to be told. I'm excited to be a producer on that documentary.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Brand Chicago, personal consultant, producer.
Yes, senior account manager at Digital Cafe.
Wow.
And again, like, all of this has come together, and I just classify it all as passion work because I love it all. Although I walked away from advertising, I still love the industry.
Yeah.
I love just the adrenaline boost that you get with working with these brands. And when it's event time and, it's time to go, I love working under pressure. And so by being able to work with Digital Cafe and then having a position in the company where I don't feel like an employee, but more so like a partner. I'm working with someone who I call a friend, and we respect our personal and our business relationship. It's literally been a dream come true. And now I get to tell stories about people who look like me, which has been a dream of mine as well. And so I love the partnership that I have with Digital Cafe and the growth that we have coming down the pipeline.
That is phenomenal. Yeah. So where can we find you? So people are watching, they're interested, either they want to attend a free community event or they just want to hire you one-on-one.
Yes.
Where would they find Brittany Applegate?
If anyone wants to connect with me personally, they can reach me at www.brittanyApplegate.com. That's BrittanyApplegate. I'm sure it's down here that you could probably read it. And then also, if you'd like to connect with Brand Chicago, which I highly encourage you to do, please follow Brand Chicago. We'll visit brandchicago.org and then follow us on social media at Brand Chicago across all social networks.
Excellent. Now, if there's one piece of advice you would give someone who's interested in getting into either marketing or consulting or even producing, what would that be?
Build relationships. A lot of the best opportunities you will ever receive will come from someone that you know and that you've built a relationship with. I would not work with Digital Cafe if I didn't know Eric for the past 5 years, and he was an advocate for who I was as a person. A lot of my support with Brand Chicago would not come if I didn't already build relationships with some of these individuals, even just on social media. A lot of people I've never met. This is our first time meeting in person.
It is.
And that is the power of just building relationships with people. And
good promo. Your videos are phenomenal. I was just like, who is behind this? We need to get her on.
Yes.
I just love the professionalism with which you execute events and with which your brand strategy is phenomenal, which makes sense because it's your brand.
Thank you. But yeah, I'd say build those relationships. Closed mouths do not get fed. So if you want something, you need to ask for it, and then be patient during the process because your time is your time and it will come right when you need it to.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Brittany.
We
are very, very honored that you joined us on the couch. And we can't wait to see you again. We'll have to have you back for something.
Thank you.